May I speak to you of love? Now, what am I speaking of? All love, fundamentally, is the love of that, the love of God, the love of it, that is behind everything, all existence. All love is that. And you have that love inside of you because you came out of that place, that vastness, into conception in some woman's womb. But you came out of that place, and to that place, you, your consciousness, your intelligence and consciousness will return. So you have that love inside of you, where you came from, where there are no problems, where there's no movement, where there are no bodies, where there is no necessity for separation, because all is one. Although you have an individual consciousness, you cannot separate the part from the whole. So the part which is the individual consciousness is the part of the whole, and therefore cannot be separated from it. Now the reality is that you came out of that reality and you come into the rubbery matter of flesh. And you pass through this flesh for 70 or 80 years, and then the consciousness that you are returns back into that place before conception. That knowledge of that love is deep inside you, deep inside your body, underneath yourself. You can only love anything to the degree that you have a knowledge of this original love within you, the love of being one and not being many. So when you love an object, that object, and this is what this external world is for, you reflect off that object. Your love reflects off that object. It doesn't reflect off this one, or that one, or that one. It somehow or other resonates. You resonate to that particular object. And there's a correspondence between the two. You somehow or other recognize in that what is there. Now, we've got to get this, that the external world is there as a reflection, as a reflector of what we are. Often you can say the other thing, that the external world reflects, as circumstances, reflects what we are inside, or what is necessary for us to cope with. But I'm talking about love now. So you have the love within you, which is the fundamental knowledge of whence I came in that body from. It is a place that you cannot imagine, you cannot visualize, and you cannot conceptualize. The fact is, it is in you. And that's the truth as well as the fact. It is inside you, deep down in your psyche, down the bottom of yourself, down here somewhere. And this resonance is extremely important in the truth, as it is in music, as it is in the voice. Resonance is very important wherever there is sound. So, and we're not talking of echo, we're talking of resonance, which an impulse comes from here. It resonates with something there, with an object there, or it comes back from that, it's reflected off that object, and then it resonates back in here where you are, and you say, I'm attracted to that, or I love that, what I'm looking at, I love that. And this can happen with a friend, to love being with a friend that doesn't go into what we would see between man and woman as sexual love. There's no friendship between man and woman that's real, but there is between man and man, or woman and woman. So we got a resonance here. So this reflection here somehow or other sends back something. I got something going out of me here. It hits against this object there, and it comes back to me, and I resonate off that reflection. And that's how I know. It reminds me in some way or other of whence I came. That where I came from. Somehow or other, I am reminded of whence I came through that resonance. And it has its origins, of course, that it's resonating off my knowledge of where I came from, that vast, indivisible place of consciousness, let's call it. But what has to happen is that it's got to come through myself, for we're talking about stuff down here, and everything down here, the knowledge of God or anything or beauty, has to come through myself. And often myself is a resistance, or myself translates beauty, which is the difficulty here. In this existence, it translates beauty wherever it concerns the opposite sex. It translates it into sex. So often the beauty of a woman for man becomes part of a sexual stimulation, because although in the first instance there is a resonance of beauty here, it comes up through the self and it turns into the desire to possess this woman. Now, sex is the desire to possess. So have you got it? The object outside is purely a reflection that reflects off your own self-knowledge of whence you came. Right? You can talk about it later, but I'll just give you the outline. You can ask me questions. Now, the self consists of individuality, a person, which is whose mainspring is sex. But sex is really love. Only it's got an individual drive in it, a selfish drive in it. And so sex, although it is love, has a selfishness in it, as I say, the desire to possess the other. Because all men in their sexual drive, want to possess the woman. They want to have power over the woman, even though they don't know that. That's what the sexual thing is, to have power over the woman, to have her submit, that she loves him so much that she submits to him. That's man's sexual drive, whether he knows it or not. Where really that drive should be a drive to master myself and to transform my sexual drive, which I am born with and cannot help, has to be turned into love, a massive undertaking indeed. Now for woman is a totally different creature to man. I know they say that man and woman are equal and all that, and that I don't know about equality, but they're not equal at all in any sense. They're different, right? Whether they're equal is up to someone else, but they're different. And in that lies the mystery of man's attraction to woman and woman's attraction to man. The aberration in between of woman's attraction to woman and man's attraction to man, I'm not going into at this time. I'm going into the one that is obvious, because you have a penis and she has a vagina, and that's where we're going to start with the reality of the sexual positioning of the bodies, right? The sexual elements in the bodies that make it possible to have a connection where the baby is made. The baby is not made in the anus, right? Between man and man. or woman and woman can't make babies. So we've got to start somewhere where the race comes out of, right? A woman's desire is not to possess man. This is when, I'm talking about woman's fundamental desire, right? Not now that she's been made a sexual creature and therefore her own worst enemy by man, but when her own immediacy, her love is to give, is not to possess at all. Her love is to give and to please man, because she is man's pleasure. So you can understand, if she is man's pleasure, and I'm talking without any interpretations, woman is man's pleasure. And so it necessarily follows that she must have pleasure in giving to him, giving everything to him. Everything she is, because she is love, where I come from, in her fundamental element, she is love. And her desire is to give everything, to be able to open up completely and utterly to the male principle. Well, that's what love is. Whereas man's drive is to possess her. In the first instance, is to possess her. In other words, because the sexual drive is by its nature to propagate the race, to make children, the sexual drive is to endeavour to fecundate her womb. That's the sexual drive. That's the fundamental of it. And he is right to do that. I mean, that's how it is. That's the drive. And she, of course, from the teenage, when she's a virgin, she, of course, has all sorts of dreams of this man being worthy of her to be able to open up completely, which is what the damsel thing is about, you know, and the man on the charger coming and sweeping her up, and she loves all this sort of stuff because that's romance to her, and it is romance, you know, but it's in the other place over here, in this world over here. But then she has all these wonderful dreams of opening up to him and being loved by him. That's the important, being loved by him. She's not fundamentally sexual unless man gets hold of her and sexes her up when she's very young, a child or something, and starts to get her sexually stimulated. Then, of course, she has sex because she has that capability of excitement in her sexual organs. And so from an early age, it is possible for her to start to get sexually trained. You know, the idea of man is to train a woman so that she gets sexually excited, like you train a dog, and you touch her here, you touch her there, and you get her sexually excited, and then she's ready for him to make love with. But that's not making love, that's got intent in it. It's got the intention to penetrate her in it. And that's not what love's about, although I understand, and we can all understand, that's the drive, is to penetrate her. So we've got two things going on here. One is the drive to penetrate her and to put the semen in there, and the other is to make love, which is the modern way of saying it, isn't it? Meaning of our times is to make love, not to make babies. And as I've mentioned to you that's all been done, 6 billion is about 5 billion too many. All right, so the population, and everybody can do it. You know, it's so easy to do, isn't it? 14, 15-year-old, doesn't matter, and all the boys are experimenting because they got the sexual drive, and nobody cares anymore, really. And so you get more and more population everywhere, despite the wonder of science's contraceptive chemicals, etc. So we've got two things going here. One is the drive from man, and the other thing is the woman wanting to be loved. They're two different things. One's going in and the other's opening, coming out sort of thing. Opening, just opening like that. Two different things. And then they've got woman having been sexually excited by man through the ages, and you're not just the woman that you are now. Each woman has to tune in, generally speaking, to the whole procession of evolution of humankind and evolution going on. Not of the physical body. The physical body has finished that evolution a long time ago. It's now, there was an emotional evolution. The idea of all the madness of the religious emotions was only necessary to break up the hardness that was in the bodies of men and women. And so religious emotion and all that stupidity of burning witches and emotional demonstration of the love of God or Jesus or Krishna or anything, all those things. That was purely emotion was necessary to break up the mentality of mankind. Yeah, from the Greeks, the Greeks were great thinkers, but great thinkers are not very emotional people. And emotional had to come into civilization to break up the mental thing. And so then humanity became emotional creatures. And as they became emotional, they became more selfish. And civilization became more hard and more protective of their self. And so civilization is a protection of ourselves. It's a big wall that's been put around, whereas once there was forest and you had to go and hunt for it and that. And there weren't so many of us, trying to get a feed, so there was plenty there for everybody. And then civilization put a wall around that where you don't have to hunt. You have to hunt less and less and less and less. And now we've got a wonderful civilization with a great impenetrable wall around us, and of comfort and convenience, aided by science and aided by the sexual drive into existence, which is the basis of progress. And we've lost the meaning of it all. First of all, to reproduce the race, then to break up the mental posturing, the mental stance of humanity with emotion. Emotion is the thing that now has to be overcome in the evolution of man on earth, man and woman on earth. But it's the hardest thing, Once it was hard to make man emotional. Once, I'm talking about millennia ago. Man was not emotional. And then he's been emotional for several thousands of years and reached its peak during the Christian era of emotionality. And all the religions, the Islam and killing everybody left, right and centre, and everyone getting emotional about Muhammad or whoever, or Buddha getting emotional, the priest whipping everybody up. Everyone's emotional about things. They believe in things, As soon as you believe in things, you're emotional. And the whole world's emotional without its religion. Now we've got to come back. We've got to get rid of the emotion and face the fact, which leads to the truth, that the whole purpose now is to reverse everything and discover love. And I'm not talking about senseless love of believing in Jesus or Krishna or anything like that, not believing in any God of form, but in the sheer reality out of which I came, of which there is a knowledge inside of you of where I came from, because that's what you love. That's what brought you here. Now, the one impediment to realizing whence I came is the sexual drive. And woman is not much help these days, because she has been trained by man, deliberately trained by man, like an animal, to react to sexual stimulation. And once she's sexually stimulated, of course, why not? She goes into a trance of sexual arousal, and she then is subject to sexuality herself and the sexual drive, and she joins in the sexual exchange, and then afterwards, or in between, or in the end of it, she thinks this, if she's got any self-knowledge in her, she thinks, oh God, I just want to be loved. She doesn't know what's wrong because nobody ever told her, none of the religions ever told her, except you shouldn't do it. You should marry or burn, as Paul said, or Jesus said, those of you you are given in marriage today, or you go into marriage, and really you shouldn't go into marriage and you shouldn't marry, and that means you shouldn't have intercourse, you see. So all this stopper on it all from some of the religions, especially our Western culture, put a stopper on it. We don't know where we are. The Christians don't know what to do. Most of them, it's a dirty thing, I don't know what they think about going to the toilet is, but they think that sex is dirty, and yet they still go to the toilet. I mean, God. And all these believers are emotional. They're stupid. Belief is stupid. You've got to face the fact. Now, man's driving into woman, so woman, where I come from, is the hope of it all. She's the hope of all. She's the only one that can stop man's sexual drive and he can turn it into love, but she has to stop it. And while he can excite her sexually and arouse her sexually, she can't resist it. She will go down sexually. Now, I'm not talking about when she gets older, when she gets a little bit of maturity in her. I'm talking about the younger girls, right? And that's not to diminish the older ones, not at all. But there's a certain maturity comes into a woman when she gets past the menopause, for instance. But anyway, so we got woman is the hope of it all, of stopping man. And how does she do this? Well, she's got to know, what do you want? Do you want sex or do you want love? That's the fundamental question is coming at you, woman, and it's going to come after me, so it doesn't matter. I just happen to be one of the first that's ever said it all. That's my mission here, to introduce it, and then others will get hold of it, and I don't know whether they're going to corrupt it or what, but they will corrupt it, of course, unless it's their own knowledge, unless it comes from God realization. But what do you want? Do you want sex or do you want love? And of course the answer would, I'd like both, please. Well, fair enough. That's fair enough. But really, if you're going to do any good for us, you can't have both. You've got to have one. Although these things don't happen overnight, left and right. Boom, it's not like that. But I'm just going to make the point. So what's going to stop man's sexual drive? Because he's got all the answers. It doesn't matter what you say to him. He's cleverer than you because he's sexual. He can undermine you. He can do anything to convince you, to make you take the blame. He can do anything because you're a sucker, woman, because your fundamental nature is love. Unless, of course, you're promiscuous and you're worldly and you're streetwise, as they call, and all the rest of it. Well, I'm not talking to those people. So when a woman decides that I want love, she's had enough of the sex. And all women really have had enough of the sex, but they can't help it because they start to perform when man stipulates them for his own devices. She has to say no to stimulation, no. No, now quieten down, stop coming at me with an erection that is too hard and too evil in its urgency for self-satisfaction. You see, a woman can read a man by his penis. Now, I'm sure a lot of you women know this, but I don't know whether anybody's ever told you. Certainly the reverend gentleman, the deacon down the road hasn't told you, that's for sure. Woman is sensitive. She's so sensitive to love, and because the penis is fundamentally love, she can tell from a man's penis what his state is. But then she's so frightened of losing him that he'll never find a man who'll love her again. And I've told you this story before. The young girls that I know in their 20s have said this to me. Well, I'm frightened that I won't find another man to love me. And there they are looking beautiful, and 24. And with 50 years of life ahead of them, they're saying, I might not find another man who loved me. This is sheer fear. Sheer self-doubt. All put there by sex. Not the strength of love and God, but self-doubt. So a woman has to read a man, not unnecessarily by his penis when they haven't made love or anything, but she has to be sensitive to man, which means sensitive to love, and she should not give in to man when he is sexual. Now, man doesn't have to always be sexual, especially when he's come and listened to Barry Long, and he accepts, he's doing his best. He doesn't have to always be sexual. Sometimes he is love. And a woman has to know when, and has to be able to tell beforehand how the man's coming at her. And she has to, where I come from, she has to say, no, I don't want sex put into me anymore. I've had enough of it. But I love, and I love man. I just love man because he's got the God principle in him, the male principle. I love man. Why wouldn't I love man? But I don't love sex. So I'm available for love. Now that takes a lot of love, a lot of self-knowledge for a woman to do that. And the best thing is, now I'm only telling you what the best thing is to make a start. Oh, I'll probably get crucified for this, but the best thing is to make a start, is to make love without sexual arousal. Because sexual arousal is a trance. Once you get in it, it just keeps going like this and you can't resist it. I'm talking about woman now, not man. He's always sexually aroused. But you can't resist it. A man works himself up while he's working you up. And he's in a sexual drive which is completely irresponsible as far as love's concerned. He's just going. And he's got you with him and he's taken you with him like a whirlwind. But how about making love without sexual arousal? Now, this really eliminates to a large degree one-night stands. Because you should only make love in this way, without sexual arousal, with somebody that you love. And when a woman loves somebody, there's an openness in her, and she's quite able to make love without sexual arousals, as long as she loves the man and he loves her. She has the knowledge that he loves her. Now, after you get this right, you can do anything together. It doesn't matter what you do together, man and woman, because you're man and woman. But at this stage, you're not man and woman. You've got a robotic thing called sex. The woman's been made sexual by man, and the man hasn't curbed his sexuality or transformed it into love. Now, I know this is not going to win the popularity of the year statement, this about making love without sexual stimulation, but it also means that if you're with a man that you're not attracted to, well, then you're not going to be able to really do it. Don't think so. Well, you could, out of sexual drive, but we're talking about something greater than that where you give up sexual stimulation, but only for now, until you get through it, until you can say, I do not have any sexual man enter me. I'm available for love, but I'm certainly not available for sex. And that eliminates man who's coming on to you. And remember, he can wait. He can wait for 3 months, 4 months, woo you, wait around, and still sexually driven. And there's nothing wrong with that, because only you can stop him and say, wait. We're getting carried away here. We're forgetting the love here. We're getting tied up in our sexual drive, which is great. I love to have an orgasm, and you love orgasming, or you love making me orgasm and all the rest of it. But wait. We're getting carried away here like human beings have been for millions of years. Is it going to make me peaceful, contented, smiling and full with love? Well, of course it's not. Sex never did that to anyone except straight after, when you feel great. But as soon as you realise it's sex, or the love goes out and the sex comes in. Now, the demonstration of that is when you first met your lover and how you came together. You've heard me say this, the two bodies are made by God, and the self is pushed right down by both parties, and we're both on our best behaviour, and the bodies make love, and bodies can make beautiful love together where there is no self. Make beautiful love. And that goes on for, say, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, perhaps. And then up comes the wrong word from one party or the other, and then the other party comes up defensively, and then they start having their first discussion or their first argument, and that means the self has now risen, and they are now growing apart, and they will make love less, fewer and fewer days, months, or whatever it is, days or months, and they'll become familiar and casual, and they'll compromise with each other, because that's what mum and dad did, and that's what the whole world does. We will compromise. Whereas in love you say, no compromise. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Why is it gone? That's love. Why is it gone? Are you going to accept that it has to go? Well, I say it doesn't have to go. You might be right with the wrong partner. That's always a possibility in this existence, because most of attractions are due to sexuality. Man's put the sex into woman, and he makes love to himself in woman, a sexual woman. He's put himself as sexuality into a woman's body, and then he comes along, a different man, and makes love to himself in a woman's body because she's sexual. She's gyrating everywhere, she's doing everything for him that he wants. That's himself. There's got to be a stop to it where I come from. We got the woman as the only hope of us all. Can she say no to sex, but yes to love? And she has the self-knowledge, because she is 100% love, as you've heard my definition of woman and man. Nobody's come up with a better one yet, I don't think. Woman is fundamentally 100% love, and man is 90% love with 10% something to do. You see, he made the world in man. He's a great organiser. He's a great drive into existence. He makes the roads. And I know the women out there now holding little lollipops up there, drive slowly, but the man's out there driving the big trucks and all this stuff. He gives her a few little jobs, A few little jobs just to keep her quiet, but he's out there, right? He's making this world. It's his world. He made it, and what a mess it is. And I'm one of them, I'm as much at fault as any man, right? So I've contributed to it too. But now I'm endeavouring to put something back with my life. Man can't be blamed. Nobody's to blame. It's just the way of things here. Because this is all a reflection of what is in within. And all reflections, if you look in the mirror, are round the wrong way. You know, the hair part is always on the wrong side. The buttons do up the wrong way. You know, it's always round the other way. When you look in the mirror, in this world here that you're looking into and that you are, is round the wrong way to how it is in here. Let's, just at this stage, could we leave it there? And now I'd like to have some questions so that you can really give it to me now. So, yeah, this man over here in the yellow, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry, of the privilege and the possibility to be here the second time in the master session. And thank you of your advice of practicing with the woman last year when I asked about the sexual correlate in me. Now I would like to ask, was it 2 days ago, 3 days ago, you were speaking about transforming the man's sexuality or the sex to love.
Yes.
So how are I able to do that?
How are you able to do that?
That's my question.
Okay. Well, sex is the drive into woman to get the pleasure of sex, self-satisfaction. Some sort of self-satisfaction goes in sex. You penetrate the woman, or you make fondle her or whatever it is, but and you endeavour to get her into an excited position. And you yourself are getting excited all the time. You're exciting her. And then to get into the woman, inside the woman, you penetrate the woman, and then there's a drive in it, a drive. Now, this is the reality of getting rid of the sex, making it rightly, transforming it, is great pleasure in the penis being in the vagina. I think I've written this. There's great pleasure in that simple action. There's a great pleasure in the chest being against the woman's breasts, as I think I've mentioned. There's a great fineness in that, a sweetness. That's why man's chest is there for her, and she's got the bosoms, and there's a communication between her. So there's a great sweetness in being so close to her. There's a great sweetness in being able to kiss her skin and to smell her hair, and just to kiss her, without losing yourself into sex. But the point is that the penis in the vagina is a great pleasure for the man, without his sexual identification with it. Is that true? Or have you got to have the sexual thing to keep the erection?
No.
Well, is that true, that just to enter the woman is a great pleasure? A sensation of pleasure through the penis. But the penis is a sexual instrument these days, and instead of the pleasure that comes from the woman's body into the penis, instead of that pleasure, there's a self-made pleasure, which is sexual drive, to be in there and to have the power to do it. And there's a power thing in it, in man, because sex is the endeavour to get power over someone else and not yourself. And so that has to be pulled back from to a degree so that you can have the fineness of the pleasure of just being in the woman. But is that true in your experience? What's your name, please?
Jari.
Okay. I'm sorry. I only speak Australian, and I'm very sorry. But is that true? Is it a pleasure to be in your woman's body, in her vagina?
Yes.
You see, you got to come over from the drive into the sheer pleasure of her. But that's very difficult because we've been taught to, we've got force in our, a penis is an instrument of force. And it's never really happy unless it's forcefully going for it and doing things. And it's never really happy unless it's doing that. But to just enjoy the whole woman, a penis doesn't like that too much to start with, because it can lose its erection because it doesn't have the force behind it. And that's one of the difficulties that man faces when he starts to transform his sexual drive into love. So, what do you say? What do you say to this?
Well, I guess I say I have to practice what you said to me last year.
Well, I think it's a good thing, and I think it's a good thing, if you can, is at this point, if you're going to give it up, is a minimum of a foreplay to start with.
What is a foreplay?
The foreplay is...
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
You got that, yeah, right. I understand, yeah, it's a different language. And
because it first sounds like some sport, but then I remember the word.
Well, you're right. It is a sport, and the job is to get the woman worked up. Although we think we're doing her a good turn, it's a sort of a loss of consciousness. The loss of consciousness is sexual arousal. Sexual arousal is a loss of consciousness. Did you hear me? Oh my God, what's he saying? Sexual arousal puts you into a trance from which there's no escape once the sex gets going. A trance, a possession, sexual arousal. So it might be advisable to give up the sexual arousal. I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just saying advisable, so that you can get the sense of the sweetness of a woman's body, the woman that you love. Question is, do you love her? Of course, that comes into it here, doesn't it? I mean, take away the sexual drive and do you love her? Well, the old joke in the pub between men is put a bag over her head and that's great. That's the point I'm making. Do you love her? Do you really love the female? And that's a big thing, isn't it? That's where we start to get really serious about what's going on here. So I suggest that to begin with, if you're having this sort of problem, is to sort yourself out, is that don't do foreplay, or a minimum of it, and enter the woman without foreplay. Why not? If she loves you, and if you're not forceful and running around with an excited penis, she won't have any problem with it. But perhaps I get some opposition here, I don't know, where you're welcome to come at me if you like. You're welcome to do it, but I'm talking about sorting out between sex and love. And you don't have to do this all the time, because when you start to transform and you get rid of the force for the sense of the power of being your whole body and loving her, then it doesn't matter what you do. But to start with, the sexual possession is so great in us that we get lost in our sexual arousal. And then the woman loses herself in her sexual arousal too. Well, any woman like to present an opposite point of view to me, and I won't ridicule you about sexual arousal. Yes, let's listen to this lady, what she has to say, and see if she is able to enlighten us from the woman's point of view.
I don't have any opposition, I just have a question.
Okay.
Sometimes when we make love, I notice that there gets to a certain place where the sexual arousal does come up. If we've been making love, say, for half an hour or something. And I was just wondering, is it better to stop at that time or just look at it?
Well, is it sexual? You'd know whether it was starting to get sexual or not. Woman knows whether it's starting to get sexual. And if it's starting to get sexual, it means that the man's probably getting excited, or you might be, you know. Is there any fantasy going on in the man? Or if you've been going for half an hour, then he's not fantasizing, but what causes the sexual arousal to come up? Does he want to come, and that makes him start to be sexual?
Maybe the word's not sexual arousal, but just that the sexual temperature rises.
Well, maybe you're a sheer enjoyment. You see, you got to get this thing between sheer enjoyment of making love without the sex coming into it. Now, I can't really make the distinction for you. I've just got to say all that I say, but I don't want to put doubt into you about that you shouldn't make love. But you know when it gets sexual. When there's enjoyment there on both sides and it's not getting sexual, it's usually be sexual when the man starts to get forceful. Or you start to lose yourself in some sort of trance or reverie about, you lose yourself, you're not there truly enjoying it, you've gone off or something. But I don't want to I'm not putting a hamper on this, on your enjoyment of making love. It's just, and you can go on and on making love, although sometimes a man will have to come, every few days probably. If he's making a lot of love with you, he might have to do that. But there's no problem with that. As a matter of fact, he shouldn't be one of these great lovers that just keeps suppressing everything and going on for weeks and weeks and weeks, because that's not holy to do that, and that's a controlling of himself by his mind rather than making love, of course, and then he comes every few days or every week or something.
I think it's maybe because I know by that stage that, just from experience, that he could easily come at any future moments.
And is this...
And it comes up in my mind then. Maybe I get a wanting in me.
For him to come?
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. So could this be a time when you are, you've been making love for half an hour and he's been getting... Because a woman, she's not always ready to open up to straight away, although a man likes to think so. She should be there every moment, able to open up, but sometimes she's not. And would this be a time where you're starting to open up to him? Woman
Yes.
does open. She starts off making love and she's not open and the man thinks she is or something, and that's all right. And she wants to give to him. She wants to give, because woman always wants to give to man in making love. I'm talking about where she loves the man. She wants to give. But she's not always, because the man's not quite right today or something, or he's thinking or fantasizing or something. She's got to gradually be convinced that he's really loving her. That happens in her subconscious, deep in her subconscious, and then the body responds, and she reaches a point, and it could be after half an hour or any time, that she opens herself. Now, when a woman opens herself, she's so vulnerable to love because she's really open to get it. And he, being psychic, he gets the message, and he's likely to become more if I could use the word excited or stimulated, because she's opened up. Because there's nothing like a woman opening to you, to man. This psychic transmission of her opening, than to make him come or to make him what you just described. And that doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's just an opening of the woman. So I don't hear anything wrong, but you would know whether it was sexual or not. And I don't think you should be too harsh or on yourself or your man. And I'm just talking to you two. I presume that's your man with you, is it?
Yes.
If you find, do you love him?
Yes.
Hand him the thing. Do you love her?
Yes, I do.
Do you love making love with her?
I certainly do.
Certainly do. Hand it back, please. You never take another person's word for it. Well, I wouldn't make too. I just look at all the things I've said, and can I leave it at that?
Thank you, Barry.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we got the man in the black.
I have a question about. This is the first time I'm here, and I never read the book or nothing about you, so there have been a lot of questions in my mind since I came here.
I'm sure they have, and I suggest you get my book.
Yeah.
Have you got it yet?
Yeah.
Making Love?
No, not that book, but I bought another one.
Well, how about getting the Making Love one?
Absolutely, I will.
Yeah, that might save some questions.
Yeah. But this is a question about something else. It's I have a company, my own company business, and I'm enjoying doing business, and it's about the feelings. I want to live a life with joy, passion, love, and fun, and stuff like that. And
That's right.
I got the message, and I don't know if that's if I got the message right, but you shouldn't have any of those feelings.
No, you didn't get that. No, that's a misrepresentation. I'm sorry if I conveyed that to you. You see, joy and passion. Now, passion is what I'm talking about with woman. Passion is a great stillness. Passion is not a passionate sexual drive. That's man's idea of passion, which is self-indulgence and a drive to get into the woman, to get power over her so that he can have power, the sense of power over her. What I'm talking about is a passion that's really still and that loves her whole body, and I'm in my whole body, not just in my penis, and I'm enjoying the pleasure of loving her, and getting the wonderful sensation through my whole body, not just my penis, of enjoying her, and seeing that she's enjoying being loved, and as I kiss her on the face or wherever I kiss her, that to me, and still, a stillness that I don't lose myself in fantasy and fantasizing, and she doesn't lose herself in dreamland, going off into some trance, that she's there all the time, and I'm loving her. She's telling me that she loves me, and I'm telling her I love her, and it's not just because I got a sexual drive, the passionate drive of love. Oh, I love you, I love you, I love you, until it's over, and then see you after, see you later. No, I'm talking about really, enjoying it. Enjoying love. You want to ask a question about all this that I've said? Yes? That's David, is it?
No. I'm thinking about attraction and just questioning attraction, and when I see a woman and I feel attraction, and there's a desire behind it, and I'm feeling being here, I'm feeling not to trust it.
That is so. Because every beautiful woman, you'd never stop feeling attraction and feeling desire, would you? I mean, you look around, and there's a lot of beautiful women here up there, I think. So what would be your question, David?
Yeah, well, that's my experience. So,
Well, you must have put your hand up for some reason. You must have a question.
I guess the question is how, just approaching being with women without,
Without lusting.
without the lust, without this pressure behind it to get.
Yeah,
anything.
lusting, I think it's called. Lusting. Yeah. It's a great word, isn't it? Lusting. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And Jesus said that only if you look at a woman with lust, you've committed a sin and all that crap. But he never said, well, what's lust? He never told you what lust was. Well, I'll tell you what lust is. Lust is to think about having sex with a woman, to think about the woman, oh, wouldn't it be good to be in bed with her? That's lust. Wouldn't, to think about her private part, to go away thinking about it and then going and masturbating, which you'd have to do eventually. That's lust, is to think about love. Whereas love is to make love or just be in love walking around, but not to think about it. Thinking is lust. Does that help, David?
Yeah, I just want to get to the place of just they're not being there.
No, can't you just see the beauty?
Even in just the looking, there's a thing to get, and which seems to displace me with even just being with women.
That's right. And even when you're talking to her, half of it's about trying to impress enough to.
Yeah, then there's
sexually,
that.
yeah. But that's got to be, you've got to see woman, you've got to see the beauty of woman and not want to possess her. That's where love starts.
I got the idea, but it's...
Well, if you get the idea, that's half the battle. It's when you conceptualize it or make excuses about it. That's in the battle. So you just got to... And tell me, how is your love life, David? Let's get down to the nitty-gritty of it all.
Okay.
Where his lust comes from.
Well, I'm not loving a woman. I'm not making love.
You're not making love. How long is it since you had your last relationship?
About 3 years.
Why is that, David? You're a good-looking man, and
yeah.
Why is it? You must know the answer, David. Are you afraid?
I think it's like I have this criteria, and the women I feel an ease with, and there's a closeness there, but then there's not, like it's not the physical criteria hasn't been there.
Yes, yeah.
And so then I judge that. I don't.
But why don't you, when you get that, have you got a particular woman that you're friends with?
Well, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. Why don't you chat her up? Why don't you talk about love to her? And you might find that the resistance was in you, with all the women around you, that nothing's really moving because you are resisting it, because you have something in you that on your past experience is a bit afraid to go in there. What's the good or something? And I think you ought to communicate. I don't mean chat up in the modern way it's said. I mean to talk with her and not put not put having making love to her out of the question, but not going to make love to her. You've got to overcome there's a resistance in you, David, which is it's not natural to you. Not a young man like you are. There's something there in the way, and I think you ought to test the water a little bit, huh? And now you've been here and heard about what love is and that. You can't, unless you've loved, you can't overcome the sexual thing unless you love and learn how to love. And and that it's quite natural. Love is natural, and that you don't need to copy what all the boys say and what all the magazines say. Oh, yeah, you know, you don't have to copy that. It's a great pleasure to be with her. It's a great pleasure to hold her in the arms. It's a great pleasure to smell her hair and kiss her just on the cheeks or anywhere. It's a great pleasure. And anything else is a great pleasure. It's a pleasure, it's not a drive. And I understand the drive will be there. But you got to enjoy the pleasure of the woman rather than the pleasure of your own sexual drive. That's the thing to do. And you do that by practice. Okay, David?
Yeah, I'm just really struck. That's my history is. This is.
Do you think
revealing my history?
Do you think I might be right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I might be, David. So give it a go, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now we want a lady now who want to talk to me about this love. Yes, there's a lady at the back with blonde hair.
Earlier you said that you can resonate with a friend, but that men and women can't be friends. Could you speak a bit more about that, please, Barry?
Yes. You resonate with a woman friend because she's sympathetic to you, and there's a certain thing that you have in common. There's something in common that is a form of resonance there. But really love is the real resonance. But there's a form of resonance with a friend. But a woman really needs is man to love her. She doesn't need women friends, really. I know I'll probably get crucified a second time for that one. She doesn't need women friends. She needs, but in the absence of man to love her, then she has women friends. But the idea of it all, what we're doing is getting man to love you. How's your love life, Linda?
It's not really. I don't have one.
You don't have one? You're not with a partner?
No.
At this time? When did you have your last relationship?
About 2.5 years ago.
Uh-huh. So what's happened since? You're an attractive young lady. Oh, you're a young lady? Yeah. What, are you a bit afraid to go in there?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, of course you are. That's one of the main reasons that woman is afraid, because of her past experiences with man. Is that so?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. Because of sex, right? Because of his sex and lack of love?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you see, that's the way it is with woman, and then she gets afraid because she's a very fragile. I don't care how tough she makes herself out to be, in those wrestling. Do you ever hear anything like it? Wrestling women and boxing women, Do you ever hear anything like it? I mean, what's going on? It's a madhouse. She's a beautifully very strong, fragile character. That's what woman is. Immensely intelligent and a beautiful thing to be with. But sex, it hurts too much. It hurts her. A man's lack of love hurts her and turns her away from man because, well, why not? I mean, you've heard the story of my cows, haven't you, and the electric fence. They only have to hit the fence once, and they don't go back at it, but woman goes back at it thinking, oh, this man will be different, bang, bang, and then this man will be bang, and eventually she says, well, I don't think it is ever going to be different, and she gets a fear in her. Even if a nice man, good man comes along, she's afraid. And that is such a pity, isn't it? And so many women who don't have a relationship at present are in that condition. And that's such a problem. So, my cure for that, which is a bit simplistic, I know, is I'm available, man, for love any time, but not for sex. And as you've heard me say before, you might get killed in the rush, And you got to say, no, I said love, not sex. So you're in charge, you see. As long as you don't fall in love or are seduced by clitoral excitement or some other sexual excitement, as long as you're not seduced by that, you are in charge. You are the one that can say, no. You know, I said I'm here for love. I'm here. I like to talk about love. I like to talk about the reality of love. I like to speak of the beauty of nature. I can love a man who can speak of love and how he sees love to be, and there's some reality in it. But I'm not here to get sexually excited. Thank you very much. No, I'm here to be loved. But if you're here to sexually excite me, then you got the wrong woman, man. But a real man mightn't be put off by that. He might say, well, look, and you've got to be very careful because there's sheep in wolf's clothing, or wool in, sheep in wolf's clothing, or wolf in sheep's clothing. You've got to be very careful, but, you woman know about man when he's got a sense of love in him. You know this thing. You must know it. You have this extraordinary love in you, this great intelligence of love. Only it's been covered over by fear and doubt, self-doubt particularly, which comes from the lack of being loved, self-doubt, so a lack of self-worthiness, because man has left you, didn't love you enough. So woman takes it on herself, you know. A man gets a bit guilty here and there, but not much. It's woman that takes it and says, oh, I didn't love him enough. What did he leave me for? Because it's my fault. It's my fault. It's not your fault at all. Nobody's to blame because what you got to do is be conscious. And if it's beautiful making love the first time, then it should be beautiful every time, or you got the wrong man, or you're wrong in yourself. Meaning, you're starting to get attached or demand or something like that. I know it's a big subject, isn't it? It's a very big thing. But you have to know, woman, you are extremely intelligent. You're not intelligent like man is. Man's clever. You know, man is really clever, but I don't think he's very intelligent. And really, basically, I don't think he's as intelligent as woman. But woman has covered her intelligence over with emotion. She can't speak unless she emotionalizes what she's got to say. And man just says, forget it. I mean, you can't talk to an emotional woman. You just can't. She says, but I'm saying the truth. And the thing is that you might be saying the truth, but nobody's going to hear you because clothed in emotional clothing, clothed in emotional attire, your truth is not worth that much. Nobody wants to hear it, thank you. So you've got to learn to get rid of the emotion out of you. And how do I do that? Well, you have to love God first. You've been loving man first. That's what you've been doing, and you get attached to him because when you love man first, man becomes the be-all and end-all, and really it is God, the one that brought you here, you know, the thing that is beyond description, that's inside of you, that I've been talking about down here, right, that's inside of you. That's first. And when you put that first, you're more likely to be able to see the God or the truth in the man because it resonates off that. This is the extreme resonance is the love of God, this nothingness that's in here down here somewhere. That's real resonance. That's what I resonate off. Oh, my word, all the time. And that gives great vision and great perception and great love. So you don't put the woman or the man first. But that doesn't stop you. Once you love that thing, you can love the woman or the man more. But you've got to put that first. So, righto, another question from a man, is it? Yes?
you spoke about orgasm and about men who withhold orgasm as a manipulative thing.
Yes.
And I have some confusion about that because in my experience with my woman, the very first thing I attempted to do in loving her rightly, making love rightly, was to withhold orgasm or ejaculation because I was afraid of putting sex into her.
Yes.
And I was able to achieve that.
Yes.
And more I was able to go without having an orgasm or ejaculation.
Yes.
Sometimes what would happen is when she would open up, the pleasure that would come into me would be so intense, it would almost take me by surprise.
That is true.
And I would have an orgasm. And I noticed that I would feel quite depleted after that. It wasn't a joyful feeling. And the other thing I noticed is that if I've ever had an orgasm, is that for a day or two after, there seems to be a lot more sex in my body, which I have to really watch when we make love.
Yes.
And I just wondered if you'd comment about that in light of
Yes.
what you said.
Okay. Well, I wasn't talking to you because obviously you are loving the woman and you are not using this manipulative mental power to hold it off so that you can just get your way with her, get her power over her so that she loves you more and more because of your sexual prowess. I was talking about that sort of man, and they do exist. But when you are loving her like you've just explained, as you've spoken, I know that is true what you're saying because of your words and the way that you've said them. You are loving her, and that is right, that the endeavour to delight her, to please her, why not having an orgasm is you're doing it for love and not for any other purpose, a selfish purpose, and that leads to more and more loving control of the need to ejaculate, which is always good because it's done and it becomes more and more natural to you until sometimes, and as you put it, when the woman really opens up, I mean, any man that is loving her is extremely difficult, and it can catch you by surprise. It can catch you by surprise because suddenly she's there, and a woman's just not there to begin with unless she is. But really, it takes her time, and by that time, sexual man is usually come in her or something, and he's all right, but she hasn't even started to open because it's love that makes her open to you. And that's quite a natural thing because by the way of things, her opening is a complete opening to your semen, which is your manifestation of your love, it's supposed to be. And she opens for that, and that goes into her. But and now it goes into her as love, or if you're using contraception, it doesn't go. The semen's not necessary because there's a psychic power behind ejaculation, and love is the greatest communicator. And if there's love in it, it changes psychically. The psychic thing is swifter, whereas if there's a self-indulgence in a man's ejaculation, then it has a different frequency because we are psychic creatures. We're not just where, like the scientist gets the semen and says, yeah, it's got so many billion so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. That's not what it's about. It's about difference in frequencies, which love changes the frequency of all communications. So what was the other thing? Is that it?
That's it.
I think that's it, yeah. Sounds all right to me. Yes, hand it to the lady next door.
The question is, what practical or can I do that man can come to me?
That who?
Is there any practical that man can
come to you?
Yes.
Come to you.
Yes.
Yes.
To woman.
In the absence of a man in your life, the only advice that I can give you is to be grateful to God, to acknowledge God, to to smile more than you might normally do, right? That's right, right? From within, because you'll remember what I said, and you got to walk around with the corners of the lips up, because when the corners of the lips go up, you see, there's a certain psychic change, because you can't really have the corners of the lips up without something happening inside. It's amazing. You can say it's a device and all that if you like, but when the corners of the lips go up, something else goes up in here. Right, okay. And you're not far away, because often, there's people around and you can greet them. You can greet them, can't you? And every greeting is some form of love. Greeting, I don't mean you greet everyone, but you do greet where you greet. And you see the sweetness of the green grass and things. And you're, instead of thinking about yourself or thinking about man, you're just in a state of grace or peace or rightness or acknowledgement, because God brings man or woman to man or woman, right? God does that. And often when man and woman go for man or woman, they bring about unhappiness to themselves. It happens so often, as you must know. Is that so?
Yes, I know.
Often. So it's best to hand over, and there can be a period where there doesn't seem to be anything happening, but eventually it will bring something or other that'll be pleasing to you. Now, I don't know what that would be, but I think you've got to open yourself, not close off because of any circumstance in your life. Just open and be open, and leave it up to that power that made you and that runs everything. Because this power is real. You know it inside of you, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do. And you're a woman also, you see, and you have power. You're the female principle of God. And you are the only woman. You. Each one of you is the only woman or the only man. Because you're not the woman next to you. You're you. This is your life. And the more beautiful you can make yourself inside, that's what counts. I mean, beauty externally is often a bit of a burden because it attracts people who are attracted to external beauty and they don't stay, no matter how beautiful the woman might be externally. And so you just every woman should make herself as beautiful as possible inside, and by the love of that which we've spoken about. All right? And you're only without a man for so long, something will happen. But don't be afraid, and yet don't go looking for it. Okay? And be as wise as a serpent and as soft as a glove. Yeah. Now, a man, please.
I have a question concerning women which I don't quite understand, and I can't understand. I have understood.
Yes.
When my wife and me recently were making love, we had a kind of experience which where you talked about, where I really could feel we were making love together. Yes. So we were not having sex, but just making love. And what I don't understand is that, let's say 2 days later, my wife says to me, well, I'm not quite sure if I love you, because I think I'm loving you, but I'm not sure. And my question is, how can that be when a woman opens up, as you say, and we are making love and, well, having the thing happen which happened there?
Yes.
How can there be any doubt in loving your partner?
Yes, there can be doubt in loving the partner when you are used to having the feeling of love of a partner. But as you go deeper into love, love is not a feeling, as you've heard me say. So when you go deeper into love, a woman can often have, and a man too, the knowledge, I don't know that I love her. because love is not a feeling. You've been used to feeling love, and that's all very nice. That's how the whole world exists. But when you go deeper into love, there's not the feeling of loving the other. But I can tell you what's there. There is the knowledge. I love him. And that's what you've got to get used to, is this changeover from feelings, from emotions, to knowledge. See, that's where I speak from, is knowledge, not feeling. And knowledge just comes, and there's no feeling in it. It's just knowledge. Go ahead.
Do you mean that I have to change into knowledge from feeling?
No.
Or that my wife has to
No,
change?
you will change. You will have the knowledge that you love her, not just the feeling that you love her. This will grow more and more. But we're talking about your wife saying that. I'm not sure that I love you.
Right.
We're talking about her. Now, is she happen to be here?
Yes.
Do you mind if I speak with you?
No.
Good. Would you hand her the
Yes.
necessary? So does that have any meaning to you? You see, you are a woman of love, and woman has to have the knowledge of love and not the feeling of love. If she has the feeling of love, she starts to get moody because some days she doesn't feel the same as others, and other days she does have a feeling, and then she gets afraid of losing the man because she's attached to him, because attachment is feeling, and all those things come out of feeling. Whereas the knowledge of love, if someone said to you, do you love him? And people answer off the top of their head, I'm not speaking to you like that. They say, I love him, and they don't really know what love is. But would it pain you if he left you?
Yes.
That's not a bad test either, is it? And so you have a knowledge somewhere, although sometimes, other times, you'll feel, you have the sense of the feeling of loving him, but not all the time. Because nobody feels love all the time, I can tell you that now. But knowledge of love, that's always there, but it doesn't move, it's got no feeling in it, and we're used to feeling. Now, when you made this love, did you make that love the same as your husband?
Yes.
You both reached this point.
Yes.
A beautiful point?
Yes.
Yes, really?
Yes.
Yes, good. Now, every time you do that, you go deeper into love inside yourself, you see. You've come from the top here and you've got rid of some of yourself. You are more in knowledge than in feeling. That's not to say you don't have feelings of love, but you mustn't be misled by you say, I don't know that I love you. Well, you can't know in the mind that you love somebody. It comes from the emotions. But knowledge is not knowing. People don't really know the difference, if there's any difference. Like the scientist says, we have scientific knowledge. They don't have scientific knowledge at all. They have scientific experience and scientific information, but they don't have any knowledge, because the only knowledge you can have is of love and of truth and of life and of death. You see, that's the only knowledge. Now, the mind knows things, right? You know your mother and your father, you know your address, you know your telephone number. The mind knows everything. But it has no knowledge in it, because knowledge is of love, life, truth, death, and God. Self-knowledge it starts with. And the more you know yourself, the more you disappear. And so the more you have the knowledge of love, the more the feeling of love, which is what most people love, is their feelings of love, or especially when woman's insecure, hold me tight or something, or hold me, to give her some feeling, because she's insecure, because she hasn't got the knowledge of love has left her, so she wants to be held. I understand that. That's more than just that. But so the mind knows everything, but it can't know love. So the mind is like to say, tell me you love me. And 5 minutes later, tell me that you love me. Well, I told you a minute ago, but I don't know it anymore. You see, the mind forgets. It can't grasp love. It's trying to grasp it and it wants to know. Whereas knowledge of love is, you love me. Like I say about Sarah, right? That's all I can say. She loves me. It doesn't matter if she left me tonight. I know she loves me. That's all. I know she loves me. And if she leaves me or has to do anything else, that's all right, because I know she loves me. Just because she leaves me doesn't mean that she loves me. Just because she dies doesn't mean she doesn't love me. She still loves me even when she's dead. That's the sort of thing that knowledge is. A certainty, an absolute certainty, knowledge. Whereas knowing, what did you say? Yeah, do you love me? You loved me yesterday, but do you love me today? This is knowledge. Now, knowledge has no feeling in it, and we're used to feeling all the time, aren't we? So you don't want him to leave you. That's always a good test. And that's not just because it's comfortable and convenient with him. Is he a good man? Is he a good man?
Yes.
Well, that's pretty good, isn't it, to have a good man? But you're losing the feeling of love. Doesn't mean it's all going, but that's a good thing. You have the knowledge of love. Okay, and that also can happen to man too. And so he can say, I don't know, and I've had it said to me, I don't know whether I should stay with her, whether I love her or not. You know, this is the same thing happens to him, because love is not a feeling. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Good, okay, we'll stay with that and love one another. Okay, just love one another. Don't make a problem of it. But I've told you what it is. Yes, okay, here's someone.
Just something you said a long time ago. You said, after I die, all the books, all the tapes, that's it. And you were talking about the living truth and the fact that when the master dies, then the master's no longer there to verify the truth that is in the books and to answer the people's questions.
Yeah, that's true. I did say that. So, as long as you love what you're reading, or means that you hear the ring of truth in it, then this beauty that we're talking about inside of you is reflecting off the words. And so therefore there's a reflection, and I say that love and the ring of truth, or the beauty in you, is the master. So although I will not contradict what I've said earlier, because it always means something, whatever I've written, but that's how it is now as an explanation to you. You are the only truth. The master is here as long as he is alive. He is here to impart to you as best he can the truth that he knows and has realized. And that helps you then to love the truth more, because it dissolves a little more of your own self and your own opinions and what you've heard, and makes it self-knowledge for you. So yes, you give it reality. But if you just read it, and say, oh, that's great, like people do poetry, people read poetry and love poetry, but it doesn't change their lives. They don't live the poetry. So poetry is a bit of an opiate, because we think it's beautiful, but it doesn't change our lives, because your lives can only be changed by living something. And I trust that in my books and tapes, what is just right for you, you pick up and you read, or you read through until you find what just works for you, and that resonates with the self-knowledge that's in you. And when that resonates, there's a correspondence goes on between the two, the reflection and the reality here, and they go on, and you receive from them, and you give the words meaning by your own meaning in here. Okay? So when I'm dead, you are the master. You are the one who has taken as self-knowledge what I have endeavoured to impart in as much as you have. You are the master. Okay? And I trust I leave many, many masters of yourself behind when I go. You all right? And to the degree that you love me, I'm not worth loving. What's worth loving is the truth that comes through me. And if you love that, then I'll never leave you. How could I? For I am the truth, and where the truth is, I can never leave, for you cannot separate the part from the whole.